The lights up bright, Doak Campbell Stadium is alive. Seminoles rise and fight to survive. Helmet gleam under that blazing sun. Florida State where champions run. Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Turf torn up under Seminole feet. The war chant pounds to the heart's own beat. Chop through the noise like a storm in the sky. 2025, we reach for the high. Seminole sideline 365.
Welcome back to another episode of Seminole Sideline 365. I am KB, and with me is the old man. How is it going? The old man is having some technical issues on his end, so hopefully that won't be a big deal tonight, but we got a lot to go over, so regardless, we'll go through it. We won't let that be a concern, but how is it going on that end? It looks like it's going rough.
You know, I've been working with this high-end
Not a high-end.
high-end gaming computer. You tell me it's not high-end. I paid $1,500 on it 2 years ago. That's not high-end. How much does yours cost?
Right around there, but I don't have issues because I take care of my things.
You take care of it. Well, mine was overheating. I ran some diagnostics on it. Have you ever done that? I'd love you to run diagnostics and tell me, and I have the specifics of what the core temperature should be and all this other bullshit, you know, and I don't get it, man. I hook in hard. I don't use Wi-Fi. And you know, it's like I'm running 2 fans on top of this damn thing. I cleaned out all the filters. So, you know, it says, well, if the CPU is overheating, then it could be this paste on top. Have you ever heard of this? This paste, thermal paste or some bullshit. Yeah. I'm not about to take that out. I took the whole hard drive and I'm taking it. I'm blowing dust out of it.
You got some issues. You should go see a certified expert.
Oh, maybe I should just junk the thing and then buy something else.
That's probably your easier option. If you have the money,
it really
to do
is.
It, you should do
Screw
that.
this, and I'll just use that to practice on or some shit. I don't give up on it, but it's frustrating as shit. You know, I'm now on my backup laptop, which must be 4 years old. There's no hesitation. I guess everybody can hear me. I mean,
I think you should just get a nice laptop. I don't think you need a desktop.
I'm done. Well, I had the desktop during COVID when I was doing my iRacing. You know that. You know that.
But I don't think you need, if you're not doing that anymore, so you should just get a nice laptop that can support that now.
I think I am.
And
Screw it. Send me some specs on what you need for. You don't need much. I mean, when I'm down at the Tampa office, I'm just using a Chrome notebook shit, and it works good.
Exactly. You don't need much. So that would be my
I
suggestion.
don't get it. So,
but if any fans out there have suggestions of what you're using,
the old man, I just want to use it for YouTube shows and stuff like that.
Netflix, crap like that. So send him in the comments or in the chat if you have what you're using, any laptops, what you would suggest.
It's frustrating.
And he will.
No, it really is frustrating to do all this shit, and then you pay all this money for this shit, and then it's like whatever.
Okay.
And by the way, this is really going to upset you. I'm actually eating my dinner.
Okay. Please put that shit away. All right. So we got a lot to go over tonight. Obviously, we're going over 2 position groups, linebackers and defensive backs. We're merging those because, honestly, we're running out of time before the season. But, obviously, these are going to be 2 critical groups when we're talking about the 3-3-5 relooked offense, the revamped defense in Tony White's new system here. And so it's critical that we do talk about these two position groups together, what impact we see, who's new, who's gone, and what we project for them. So as we're talking through it, let us know in the comments what you think. Disagree, agree with us. We always appreciate those. And yeah, let's dive right into it. So,
hey, Mike Merrick's the first one in the room.
Good to
Go
see you,
Mike. Go Mike.
Mike. But it's important to know, where we stand and where we came from, because obviously, we lost. We didn't lose a lot from last year. Let's just be honest there. Last year,
well, we should have. We should have lost a lot.
Well, no, we shouldn't have lost a lot because we
We
look
won
at what we
2
had.
games. 2 games.
No, that's what I'm saying. We didn't lose a lot. Like when you looked at the linebacker group from last year, you didn't feel good about what you had last year. And I remember us talking about our linebacker group last year, and it was concerning. The players that we had in the linebacking group, you had Cam Riley was one of the big transfers you had coming in, and he was you kind of thought he would be okay, but it wasn't like a guy that you were telling all your friends about, right? He had experience, but it wasn't like this all-star linebacker you had coming in to shore up the group, and that was bringing him along with the younger guys like Omar Graham and Blake Nicholson and those guys that tried Justin Cryer to shore up those younger guys. And Cam Riley was the guy you brought in, along with retaining DJ Lundy, who, once again, I don't think many people were like, oh my God, we got DJ Lundy back from Colorado. Like, you weren't really sold on the group. And I think overall that group sort of underperformed. They didn't play up to snuff. I think the younger guys, we'll talk about them, they played better than the veterans did at times. Some guys were banged up too, stuff like that. But it was an underwhelming group. And that group, I felt, has been underwhelming the last couple of seasons outside of 2023 when you had Deloach, you had Bethune, and those guys excelled in doing what they did well, and it all came together for that magical season. So this is a group that's gone through now more transition. You still have that younger base of guys that really is still developing, but we need them to step up this year, and you've infused it with veterans into that group. And who are those veterans? Who are those guys that we're going to talk about tonight? Well, Elijah Herring, Stephon Thompson, and Caleb Lavelle. Those are the 3 guys that this team went out and they brought in, along with, those are the 3 main guys. 2 of those guys, I would say, are more likely than not to be starters or co-starters in that linebacking group. Obviously, Elijah Herring, Tennessee guy, Memphis guy, veteran. This is kind of like your Cam Riley-esque guy. This is the guy that is going to be, in my opinion, kind of potentially the Mike linebacker, and I think, like you see it here, the middle linebacker in this case, but the Mike linebacker is the guy typically in the middle, and the 3-3-5 who's kind of doing the communications in this type of defense, and because he brings the experience. He's 23 starts in the last 3 seasons, 151 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. He's done it. He brings the productivity that this group doesn't have. He brings the veteran leadership that this group does not have. And that's why you went out and got him. And you're lucky that you went out and got him. And he comes from a system that's very similar to what you're now running. So it was a giant get that Tony White was able to identify and get this type of guy. And I think ensuring that he's healthy and ready to go is going to be critical for getting this defense to fit right away. And then quickly, I'll talk about Stephon Thompson, because I do think he's another guy that, once again, he's familiar with Tony White. Obviously, Syracuse and Nebraska, having played under him. I don't think he's going to be a star necessarily or an elite player in this defense. But once again, having a guy that knows the system and can coach the guys up, whether it be off the field or on the field, whether it's substituted or just calling out guys who are in the wrong position or doing the wrong thing, he is kind of going to be like a co-captain, I think, for this defense, just because he brings some experience. He's been on the field before, but he also has been on the field with Tony White in multiple stops, and he knows how to call guys out when they're in the wrong place or they've done the wrong thing. So I think it's important to bring him in as a veteran in the system, and he can help the young guys come along faster. So those are just my initial impressions of those guys and the transfers coming in. What are your initial thoughts of the kind of transition from last year's room to this year's room?
Well, hopefully it's going to be better than last year's room, because definitely didn't have any all-stars. And let me say this. I think Mike Merrick, one of our loyal few viewers, this guy, Mike, is the most positive vibe guy, I think, in Knoll Nation, and he gets around to the channels.
Yeah.
But Mike, you got the best positive vibes of anybody. You believe in the Coach Norvell positive vibes coaching methodology versus Tony White. Okay. I don't know if anybody hasn't had the chance to listen in to Tony White's pressers. They are great. They are really, really worth listening to. And we've put a couple of those snippets out there. Okay, now to your question, I have to believe this linebacking core will be better, probably much better than what we had last year. Now, we bring in a new defensive coach, and that's Tony White. He brings over, obviously, Stephen Thomas. Okay. I think he's going to be the guy calling the shots versus Elijah Herring, because Stephen Thompson played for Tony all last year, pretty much. If at times he was injured a little bit, but played for him and knows the system better than anybody on this defense. Okay. Besides maybe James Williams, okay, who also came over from Nebraska. So I think there's 6 or 7 linebackers who are competing now for playing time. And I think there's a good shot that 5 or 6 of them are going to get pretty good time, I believe.
You think 5 or 6 guys are going to be? Well, yeah,
I think so. I think that's. I mean, early in the season, KB, it is hot as hell. Okay, it's going to be 100 degrees easily on the field. 100 degrees. Okay. So I think they're going to go with what has been preached by Tony White so far is whoever competes the hardest, whoever makes the most plays, who shows up on tape, practice and the games, is going to be on the field. And then the rest of the rotation will be guys that they can sort of trust. Now, the guys you've mentioned already, I think the 3 studs here, the 3 guys I'm looking at, 4 guys maybe, 3 or 4 guys, is Thompson, Herring, Omar Graham, and Juice Cryer. Those are the top 4 guys that I see. Okay, and I expect probably Thompson and Herring will get the majority of the reps because they are the veteran presence. But Omar Graham is no slouch. He's played a lot of D1 football, and Juice Cryer started to come into his own at the end of last year. I think those are the top 4. Blake Nicholson may be the guy left out, and he'll pick up the leftovers depending on injuries and stuff of that nature. So right now, I think that's what you're looking at in that regard. Now, the surprise could be Amari Williams, who's listed as tight end and linebacker. No, I think he caught a pass, or in a scrimmage the other day, caught a pass or scored a touchdown, and he also, intercepted or made some tackles on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish the hell they'd settle in on this kid. This kid has really good skills, but he's being bounced around like a tennis ball. Maybe that's to his benefit in the end here. Maybe, but he has good skills, and I wish him the best during this season. But right now, I think that's what we're looking at. They say, I listened to a number of interviews. There's good vibes in the room. We've got some veteran presence there, as you've already mentioned. And I think it's much better than what we had last year.
Yeah. So I want to touch on a couple of things. One, I'll touch on the Amari Williams thing. I think he is the real wild card in the group because you don't know. I honestly I don't know what to expect. I don't know how. I really don't know how much they'll utilize him. I don't know if it'll be kind of like a Travis Hunter thing, like they did with him. Like how he'll get equal snaps on both sides. I don't say no because you don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So don't say no because you don't know. And I don't know if the coaching staff knows.
He's not going to be a Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is once in a generation player.
Well, Travis Hunter wasn't elite at both positions either. So that doesn't mean Amari Williams has to be elite at both positions. But if they need him, I believe the majority of 10% or 15% of the college athletes today could play both ways. The coaches make them not because they don't want to risk injury of those players. You don't tell me most of these receivers, these top receivers at these colleges couldn't play cornerback. Yes, they could, but they don't want those guys to get hurt, and they don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree. I'm not going to agree with you.
Well, I'm telling you, they could. These guys are elite athletes, and if they want to play both sides, they could play both sides.
Hell, we can't even get a guy who's been a defensive back his whole career to play really well. I mean, much less switching them back and forth. That's all. That's my argument.
So I'm interested to see how Amari Williams, how they choose to use him. So I think he's a wild card there. Looking at though the snap count at Nebraska last year and how deep they went, there was over 8 linebackers last year that played in over 12 games last year.
Well, some of that's going to be injury related to guys.
I'm just telling you the stats there though.
I got you.
There was more than 8 linebackers that played 12 games or more. So whether that's
fresh legs on the field.
So they should be prepared that you may see up to 8 linebackers, and that lines up with, Caleb Lavelle getting some time. He's been banged up, but they brought him in. But they brought in guys, I think, knowing that guys get injured. They play this is going to be a fast style attacking defense. This isn't going to be a sit back and coverage type of defense anymore. Those linebackers are going to get a lot of play. They're going to get a lot of movement. They're going to be running sideline to sideline. And that's why I think they brought in guys that can do that. Caleb Lavelle from UNC. You brought in, you got a new freshman coming in that they recruited. And now you got someone like Amari playing, now in a hybrid role to come in if they need that and kind of sub into packages to see if they have to go 8 deep. They have the ability to go 8 deep with those bodies that they need to, with skill position players, and not have to go to a walk-on. So I think they set up nicely with the roster because I think, like you said, I think Omar Graham has a lot of upside. I think Justin Cryer has a lot of upside, and I don't know what we have in Blake Nicholson yet. I don't.
Well, he's the wild card. What's your feelings about him at this point? You know what? I don't hear anybody really saying much about Blake. So
I think the fans, most of the fans, have kind of sold him off at this point. I don't want to sell him off because I respect a kid that came all the way from California that's stuck with the program for now year 3.
Yeah, but being
it's so
stuck
it's easy to leave though. It's easy to leave now. He could have left and said, "I've gotten experience here. I've played here. I could go somewhere else and restart." Why not? It's easy to leave now. It's easy to quit on a team and go somewhere else.
He's not going to quit. He's not a quitter.
Exactly. And that's why I respect a guy that sticks it out and says, I'm going to continue to prove myself and fight for this roster. I'm going to fight.
He's going to make a contribution. I'm going to prove,
because the thing that is, when a new coaching staff comes in, there are no relationships. There are no, with the old coaching staff, you don't tell me. There were probably some, hey, this player has a relationship. He gets, he's going to get some playing time over another player. No, with a new coaching staff, there's not that. It's all fresh. Everyone has to prove themselves. We saw what, you see Tony White's press conferences. You don't work your ass off, you're gone. And we saw
I sent you. Did you watch that? That was unbelievable.
Yeah. So, and that's what I respect, is that there are none of these old school relationships anymore on this roster, because it's new, especially on the defensive staff. These guys are being held accountable, whether you've been here for 3 years or you're brand new. Everyone's on the same playing field, and someone like Blake he stuck it out. He stood here. He's proven himself, and we'll see what the playing time he gets. But I do believe he's still, as a junior, he does have something to prove, because this was a top 150 player in the country, close to a 5-star type of player that they brought in from California, and we haven't seen that yet. But this is year 3. Let's see what he has. I think he can bring something. He's very athletic. I just don't know if he's going to be an all ACC first team type of player, but I think he's better we're better with him than not having him. I think
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, there's no doubt. I like the kid's attitude. I like Blake's competitiveness. You know, he got kind of a raw deal when that clip came out of him being thrown to the side by, who was that? The freshman running back. Kuzman. Yeah. He got kind of a raw deal on that. It's one play. Most of these clips we see on X and other places, it's one play. I think his best skills, Blake's best skills, is helping in the pass game, being able to drop back and being able to cover some of these receivers like a tight end or something. I think that's where he's going to fit in.
Yes.
Plus, I believe he'll make an outstanding contribution on special teams. I don't know who the hell is going to be on special teams, but I think Blake Nicholson would fit that role because the kid can run. So hats off to Blake. I think this will be a big year for him to decide, does he stay with this team or does he hit the portal at the end of the season? We'll find out.
I absolutely agree with that. But like you said, I think this shift in defense was a big reason he did stay, because I believe he will showcase his abilities a lot better than the old system did. So I do agree with you on that.
Right.
So we talked about, what we lost, if there was anything to lose. The Cam Rileys, the Sean Murphys, which Sean Murphy, once again, was a transfer portal pick.
Alabama
didn't work out. Once again. So there was a lot of misses last year. We could go through all the portal misses last year across the board. But we're hoping this year, obviously, new staff, new picks, they work out. And I do like the strategic picks they have. Caleb Lavelle's the only one that you say, I think that's strategic.
Is he healthy?
I haven't heard a lot from him in the fall. I know he was hurt. I believe he was hurt still in camp. But once again, camp's kind of been closed off. So I
don't hear his name though in the pressers. I really don't hear his name.
I don't think he was brought in to make an immediate impact. This is a guy who's a sophomore, redshirt sophomore. So he's someone you get to develop, hopefully. And he can make if he's healthy, make situational impact, and the next year be ready to step up.
Well, it all depends how quick he's picking stuff up, and
because he's one of those guys. He's fast, he's athletic, he's strong, and he can move sideline to sideline. And so, once again, hopefully next year you're building a base, for that defense going forward.
Well, you've got two seniors. You got Thompson's a senior. You got Elijah Herring. He's a senior. So we're going to lose a lot of people off this football team going into 26.
But the thing is, if you keep if you like what you have and Cryer, Omar, and Blake really step up this year, you'll have your main four linebackers with Lavelle. You'll have four guys that if those three, your core, because you still have that three core that you recruited. And Blake and Omar and Justin. Justin came in from Northwestern, but you got him young too. You got him as a freshman transfer in or a sophomore transfer in. So those are your core guys that you're.
Well, let's not forget now that James Williams is going to make or should make. This is a big year for him coming over from Nebraska. He's well familiar with this, so he should make a big contribution to this defense now. If he doesn't, I think that's.
I'm talking about linebackers.
Well, He's gonna be the jack, which can be a defensive end or a linebacker. Sure. He can put his hand in the dirt or he can back off. That's the flexibility of this defense. And you and I have both watched the film and watched Tony White explain how this all works. It's total flexibility and to confuse the quarterback. Correct. After all his subs have come in and the plays have been called to really give him different looks. Correct. But Williams is going to have to make an impact on his team, just like Thompson is. Amari Williams, as we've talked about, he could make an impact because he's a skillful athlete. We'll see what happens.
Correct. And when we're talking about too, and I want to go quickly touch on again that the sophomore leap, or the guys, those juniors and sophomores who we want to take a next step. Those guys who are going to be on the field again. That core three I talk about. I want Blake Nicholson. People want to shit on him, but
I don't think people want to shit on him.
People do, though. People do. And let me finish.
I don't want to shit on Blake.
Let me finish my point. Okay,
but I think
it's the linebacker that led the team in tackles last year. The linebacker that led all the linebackers in tackles last year. He led all the linebackers in tackle for loss last year. So this is the guy the leader of the group last year over Omar and over Cam and over all the other linebackers. So, this is the guy with the most experience and the most impact of that group. And now, it wasn't an elite group last year. It wasn't a great group last year. But this guy made his impact. He did his production last year. And he was surrounded by a lot of not great defense, I would say, around him. It was a bad position. It was a bad coaching job. It was bad everything. And he stuck in there. He did his job for the most part. Was he perfect? No, he wasn't. But he made his impact known. He did his thing. And I think let's let them all do their thing again and hopefully step up.
Why do you say people are shitting on?
Because
Blake
you see it on social media. People don't.
Well, it was that one play.
No, it wasn't. It's more than that. It's more than that. So let me say my point, because I've seen it. I've seen people have said he hasn't stepped up. He's not a good player. He shouldn't be starting for us. I've seen it. It's not just on that one play. But that's an example of them doing it. So I want him to step up so he can shut people up, because I do think he could be a great player for this defense. And we need it.
He just doesn't. I think people don't see him as fitting the mold of that nasty linebackers. Usually when you think of linebackers, they're nasty people. Okay, you're way too young, and most of our viewers are, to understand who Ray Nitschke of the Green Bay Packers, when they won Super Bowls 1 and 2. Ray Nitschke. I watched a film about Bill Curry, who was the former coach of Alabama. Bill Curry was drafted off Georgia Tech to play for the Green Bay Packers under Vince Lombardi. Bill Curry said he was shocked. He never thought he would get drafted. Okay, he was the last guy drafted by the Green Bay Packers. This was back in the late 60s. Interesting story told by Bill Curry. He said, I had to line up my first snap to Bart Starr, Hall of Fame quarterback. I had to line up and look at Ray Nitschke, and I was scared shitless. Dick Butkus. Okay, Jack Lambert. I hope these names resonate with some of our viewers out there. These are Hall of Fame guys. And that's what I think fans think, or I do, of a linebacker. Marvin Jones, big-time linebacker. These are the guys that I think, and they're comparing that type of situation to a Blake Nicholson, and it's unfair.
Yeah. So that's that. But I hope he continues to step up. I hope those three guys continue to develop this year, because I would love to keep them together for the senior season and have a core group together. If we.
Well, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be on this team, and hopefully he's going to make some contributions.
You're not listening to what I'm saying, so just yeah. So the next part is the young freshmen. If any of the three guys they brought in, and you hope to not have to go that deep, but like I just said, Nebraska got to go 8 deep last year with the 3-3-5. So do you have any thoughts on Jaden Parrish, Ethan Pritchard, or Tamir Hickman Collins? Do you believe that any of those guys will be in the rotation? Have you heard anything about any of those guys? Do you expect anything from either of those guys? I think they're all three-star guys. The only thing I've heard about is Ethan Pritchard kind of making some noise, but you don't know if that's just media talk or anything. Any thoughts on those guys?
Again, we're not lucky enough to have access, but most of the FSU media who do this for a living, they're not having that much access either. So it's all speculation. It's all rumor. I haven't heard their names, the names you just covered there. I haven't heard that much in what's been distributed out here to the public. So I don't expect them to make big contributions, but you never know. There can be a guy who comes out, gets an opportunity, and turns it into a gold rush. Mm-hmm. So Right now, I would say I don't see them as heavy contributors to this football team. But I could be wrong. We'll find out.
Yep, we'll find out soon. So that is, that's the look at, the linebacking core, and obviously we talked about kind of who will kind of be the captain in that Mike will that Mike linebacker position, which we kind of went back and forth between Stephon Thompson and Elijah Herring. I think it's Elijah. You think it's going to be Stephon, but it's good that you have two of those guys who have familiarity with the system. One coming from Tony White himself and being coached under him. One just familiarity with the system and having veteran leadership there. So that'll be critical. But it will how with this and with those guys like Omar, Blake, and Justin, those all rising, having high potential. Who of those three guys that we talked about, that we broke down there, of those three guys that have been with the program, who have played under Mike Norvell for a couple of seasons, who do you think is going to take the biggest leap this year, and why?
Well, I'm hoping it's Blake Nicholson, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it's so hard to evaluate. People say he's not big enough. I don't question his speed. I think he's probably got enough speed and quickness of any of the linebacking core, to be honest. Does he have that ingredient to really pop people hard? Does he have that ingredient to tear heads off like we think of as a linebacker, to be a big hitter? Okay, to be the big hitter. If that's the biggest question, I think, for people, but I hope he makes the biggest leap of all these. The other guy I'd probably think about is Pritchard.
The freshman? Oh,
yeah.
Elijah Pritchard. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm hearing little bits and pieces about him that if he gets an opportunity, I don't think he's going to be a starter. I don't think he may be the main backup, but we don't know what's going to happen on the injury side of the ball. He could make a name for himself this year if he gets an opportunity.
So I do think he's going to that's where I disagree. I think Elijah didn't come here to sit on the bench. I don't think a guy with this much experience.
He's going to be a starter. There's no doubt.
You just said he wasn't going to be a starter.
No, I said Pritchard, not Herring. Herring is a starter. Okay.
Oh, so you mean Pritchard the freshman? You're talking about the freshman.
Yeah, Pritchard the freshman.
Got it. Okay, and then of everyone we talked about in the linebacking core, who do you think will have that biggest impact? Like the biggest impact of all, who will be the all ACC guy of this group if Florida State has a successful season? Who is the one guy that will have the biggest impact on the team? MVP of the defense.
Well, right now, it's hard to tell on this team itself.
If you had to bet, FanDuel put $1,000 down. This isn't betting advice, but if you had to put, I'm gonna
go with Stephon Thompson because he knows the system. And let me say this: I think Stephon Thompson, because he's familiar, he's worked under White. I believe he could have that ACC recognition type of year. Now, my greatest concern is, besides Thompson and James Williams, no one else has played in this defense before. And I want to believe that it's simple, but after watching it explained by Tony White, it does have some complex pieces to it.
Yeah.
And if these guys, when the lights come on, don't understand their piece, there could be some big gappers. There could be some mistakes, and we may have to pay the price for those because no one ever gets it totally right. So with so many new pieces to the puzzle, playing absolutely a new defense, that is the biggest problem. And when we play teams, the good teams, the top 5 teams on our schedule, they're going to try to exploit that, and they're going to come and they're going to cause their own confusion on offense. How do you negate a defense that tries to confuse you? Well, you try to confuse them and make the defense pay. Okay. And so that's my greatest concern, but my man would be Stephon Thompson.
Okay. That's fair. All right. So let's move on to defensive backs. So anything else you want to say about the linebacking group before we move on?
No, I just, I think we've got I like Tony White. I like how he conducts himself. I like the message he's sending. It's an open competition, whether you're a freshman or a redshirt senior. The best guys are going to play. My greatest concern is they've never played together in this defense, and it's going to be fun to watch, though. It's going to be fun to watch. I think you have and I have. I've watched some games now. I watched Nebraska against Colorado again. Now, to see how that game went down. Colorado scored a lot of points. I mean, they ended up losing, but they scored a lot of points. Is we have to hope that we can stop the run. I know we're not talking games, but this defense must stop the run of the opponent to force them to throw the ball. We want teams to throw the ball against us because we're going to have so many defensive backs on the field, basically 5 defensive backs, if not someone else, maybe a 6 dropping into coverage. It's going to be very interesting. But do you agree that as a defensive coach, Tony White wants to stop the run and force the pass?
No.
Really?
Well, no. I agree with you. I think it's a defense that is going to be, like you said, blitzing, attacking, and it's going to be not sitting back in coverage, but it's going to be, like you said, going to be open up to the run. And going to try to shut down. So, yeah, I would agree with you on that. But I think you're more susceptible to the run game just because you have less down linemen.
But if you can't, while we're on this, but think of this. If you can't, let's say Alabama, who's coming up in 2 weeks, if you cannot stop their run, KB, they're going to keep running the ball, which forces you to put more men into the box, okay? It forces you to maybe bring in another linebacker versus, take out one of the defense backs, put in another linebacker. The best thing for Tony White, as I said, and if anybody thinks I'm wrong, please put it in the comments. He wants to control the run game against the opponent, because he wants people to start throwing the ball because we have so many guys, ball hawks, running around trying to take it away. That's, I think, the greatest point of this defense, as well as putting pressure on the quarterback and sacking the quarterback because you don't know where guys are coming from. But hopefully our defensive guys know where to be and when to come and when not to. That's going to be the key early.
Well, something that gives me some solace that he can do that is like when they played Ohio State last year and they held them to 64 yards rushing. Now, they lost that game, but it was 21-17. And you hold basically 2 top 3-round pick, Quayshawn Junkins and Trayvon Henderson, to a combined 60 yards or 70 yards on 20 carries. That's incredible. So, like you said, something's got to give. Will Howard had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns and interception, but once again, you gave up. You stopped the run. You gave up some in the pass, but you kept them to 21 points. You kept that team in the game. You kept your offense in that game. Right? You kept Nebraska. Defense kept them. Held Ohio State, one of the most high-powered offenses in the country, to 21 points.
No, I think it's pretty damn good. I think that's pretty damn good. And I guess I was wrong on the Colorado score. What game did Nebraska have where I think they won a game, but they gave up like 35 points or 30? I was trying to remember. I thought that was Colorado. No.
I mean, they got crushed by Indiana, but they lost. At Illinois, they gave up 31. They lost. I don't know what game.
There's been some games where they gave up a lot of points against people you wouldn't expect. Maybe. But there was a little bit of inconsistency there. All right, but I do believe it's going to be a fun defense to watch. They say the players are really enjoying it because they're being allowed to be aggressive and go chase the ball. Okay. Now that sounds, that's a simple one. They should be able to do this. Well, it's more complex than that.
For sure. So let's talk about the defensive backs now and dive into that.
Mhm.
So on that side of the ball, you do lose a couple of guys just like with the linebacking group, you lose Fentrell Cypress, who's probably I would say probably the biggest impact loss there. He's an NFL guy.
They say he's having a pretty good camp with the Jets.
Commander.
So,
No,
Commanders. No, I thought it was with the Jets.
No, that is not him. That's Azaria Thomas. He's with the Jets.
Okay.
Do you not believe me? Do you want me to pull?
No. I just misread it then. I misread it.
So, but yeah,
probably why I was fixing my computer.
Probably. But yeah, I mean, those are both two NFL guys. Azaria Thomas obviously is probably the best of that group. He was the most consistent of those guys. But Fentrell went as well. But I wouldn't say, obviously when the defensive line's not good, the linebackers aren't good, the defensive backs are going to suffer. So that's why everything kind of broke down last year, and the defensive backs didn't shine as they did 2 years ago. But yeah, you do lose those veteran guys from that group, but you do return a lot of other guys, Jabril Rawls, Edwin Joseph, Kadarius Jones,
and Conrad Hussey, right?
No.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. As you guys probably heard this week, altercation with a coach.
I didn't hear that part. When did you hear the altercation part?
So that got leaked, or that got reported, I think earlier today, or yeah.
Is that a good source that reported that?
Pretty much. I believe.
I mean, it came from a decent reporting site.
I mean, Tomahawk Nation reported it, so I think it's pretty safe to share that.
You know what? And it probably makes some sense. I wonder what coach it was.
Yeah, I don't know what coach it was.
Okay.
I think people were speculating that it was a analyst, not a primary coach, but maybe like a positional assistant positional coach, something like that.
Yeah.
But
there's some ex-head coaches on that defensive staff now.
So this was the quote. As one source told me, it wasn't a good look for Conrad Hussey, and also wasn't a good look for the position coach.
Ooh.
So, so I don't know what that means.
Well, guess what? Guess who's gone? Conrad Hussey's gone. So
exactly. Which
there was more. There's got to be more going on. And by the way, I was looking for his Twitter, and I had to kind of go into a backdoor comment, and I invited him to come on the show. If he'd like to give his story, we're here to talk to anybody that would like to give their side of the story, and he's more than welcome. And if he's listening to this show, please hit us with a DM or get a hold of us. We're pretty easy to find, and we'll be glad to bring you on and let you tell your story.
Yeah, but
we wish you the best of luck. I mean, we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you'll overcome whatever's happened and you'll find a new home quickly.
Well, I don't know about that since he put his hands on the coach,
put
his hands on the coach.
Was that in the story? I didn't read. I'm sorry.
We just said that. Are you not hearing me?
I didn't hear the hands part.
Physical altercation with coach. Are you not reading the screen? Jeez. So yeah, I don't know if he's going to get picked up quickly. I don't think, obviously this wasn't the worst thing that could happen, but I think
I don't like that part.
So I'm not going to be jumping in his DM.
I saw head coach Woody Hayes. You ever heard of Woody Hayes?
Yes, I've heard of Woody.
Ohio State. It's probably before your time. I think they were in a bowl game or something, and they weren't doing as well as Woody. Woody was pretty old then, famous head coach. And some guy picked off a pass, if I remember it right, comes by, gets knocked out of bounds on his sidelines, and Woody Hayes hits the guy, punches the guy in the head with his helmet on. And Woody Hayes was fired the next day. So hands-on people is never good.
Once again, this is alleged always and but he was let go. Yeah. Good for, whatever. Good for both sides.
I would love to have him come on and just tell us what he thinks the state of the program is.
I don't care what he thinks what the state of the program is. If he wants to come on, tell his side, that's great. I don't really care either way, but he can come on, whatever. But he's gone.
I'm just saying you give people an opportunity.
Cool. But I think it's good that he's gone for the state of the program. I don't think you need guys putting hands on coaches. But once again, I don't think you need, if the coach put his hands on the player, I don't think that's good too, especially if it's, things need to be professional.
You know what gets me? Let me air this out a little bit.
God.
What gets me, and then we're going to move on to the secondary here. It gets me that, Mike Norvell's policy is, well, we never talk about injuries. We don't talk about dismissals. Basically, Mike doesn't talk about much. Okay. That's just the way it is if you listen to it. But, nobody addresses any of these things. So they just kind of leak. Things get leaked out and nobody ever talks to the individual involved. Okay. So that's why I think it's fair, or even, I don't care who it is. Could be some other FSU media, could be the Tallahassee Democrat, a newspaper, but somebody should get the story and so on. And if Conrad made a mistake, he should be apologizing for it right away. Not that that's going to bring him back on the team, but it's just a good PR thing to do. Hold yourself accountable and endure the consequences. That's it. Okay.
Yeah. So either way, it'll be interesting to see if anything happens to the coach involved. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to speculate, but regardless, Hussey wasn't going to be a starter. He didn't play great last year, kind of banged up, but wasn't an huge impact player last year. But it does hurt your depth. He had experience. This isn't great for your veteran, having backup experience and rotational experience. So that is hurtful there for this group.
Right.
And it's late. Obviously, it's not like you can go pick somebody off the street to fill that gap. And you had him slot in right into the roster as a rotational backup at minimum. So that hurts. But let's talk about positives that happen, right? Positives that happen is that you still retained, you retain Coach Surtain, who's probably one of your ace recruiters right now. You brought in guys like Jeremiah Wilson from Houston, who is probably your top transfer, I would say, of the offseason. The guy is a stud. You look at he is
the leader of the secondary.
Yeah. So
that's not my quote. That's the quote of his coaching staff.
Yeah. You lost, you lost guys like Azare to the NFL, but you replaced him with I'd say a similar like-to-like replacement with Jeremiah Wilson, who's grades out defensively at an 86.9 coverage grade, PFF, one of the top-ranked power forward cornerbacks when you look at any site. He's quick, he's competitive, he's got good communication skills, versatile. He's just well built to play. Well built to play in this type, and I believe he's played under Tony White at Syracuse before. So he's all around just really good fit for this team and for this defense. And it was a great pickup, a needed to have pickup in the offseason. So, whatever they paid him probably is worth it at this point.
Well, he was paid the highest compliment by Coach Surtain, who said this guy's only been in camp here for basically 2 months, and he's taken over that secondary room, and he has rallied everybody, and he doesn't just do it with talk, he does it with action. So he is going to be one of the leaders on this football team. Yeah. Now, obviously the word is getting out on that to the opponents and so on. So they may not go against him as much as they're going to pick on other people.
Well, I think the word's already out. I mean, he was a stud at Houston, and that's why he left Syracuse. And he played under Tony White before, and that's why Tony White went out and got him. He had 4 interceptions last year, 16 solo tackles, 4 passes deflected. He was a stud at Houston, and he was going to be on.
This is a money year.
Game planned. He was going to be game planned anywhere.
Yeah, money year.
So. And talking about guys that we returned, who are the key guys that we returned and that we should be looking out for? Earl Little Jr. This is the guy we got from Alabama last year, the 5-star recruit we're looking to develop this year. 24 wasn't his year. We didn't see the impact, limited snaps.
He learned a lot.
Kind of diminished. But this is his year to step up in that hybrid safety role under Tony White. And they say this is the perfect fit for him in this defense. So
Yeah.
let's see if he steps up. And when Joseph, I saw some good things I liked out of him.
Yeah.
I really thought in a crappy year, he showed some stuff where I was like, okay, this is a guy we can build around. This is a guy we can keep. You know, he had 1.5 sacks, an interception,
Good
pass
measurables
breakups.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, good measurables. He got hurt in the spring,
Yeah.
I believe, but he does. It looks like he does have an edge. He likes to hit, and I believe he looks like he'll maybe be in that contention for that starting corner spot. So something to keep a look on there.
And if he likes to hit, okay, that's one of the things, one of the key factors if you're going to be on the field. Okay,
Yeah.
These cornerbacks and safeties, the cornerbacks, they're not going to just, as I heard it said in one of the interviews, that under Fuller, the cornerbacks played about 85% press man coverage. Okay, where under Tony White, it's not going to be that way. You're going to be out on an island sometimes on your own, just like in the pros. But when the run comes your way, you can't avoid the run. You've got to go up and lay the smack down on who's coming at you. You're going to have to take on blockers and you're going to have to take on running backs. Okay. You're going to have to be physical. So Tony White and the rest of the defensive staff on that side want physical corners. And if you're not a physical corner, you're probably not going to be on the field a lot.
Yep. And talking about that strong safety spot, the guy that it looks like to be slotted in there potentially is KJ Kirkland. Really, he's been getting rave reviews about how he improved his physical development and his play, and how he plays downhill, runs the court really well, and in that intermediate coverage level. So someone to look out for there. And then finally, kind of in the free safety slot, Shaheem Brown. Once again, people have mixed feelings on him.
It's not people. No, it's not just people now.
Fans.
No.
Well, I'm telling you,
Well,
I'm not saying I love him, but I think that's the guy that's likely going to be there.
You know what I'm hearing? Not just fans. It came out in interviews. It's kind of leaked off the lips of the coaches a little bit. Unless they're just trying to motivate him and push him harder, he has slipped a little bit. Okay?
I believe I don't
Now,
love
wait.
Shaheem Brown in that role. I don't love him in that role. I'm just saying.
I heard it, and you can go back. Any viewers can go back and listen to the interview with Surtain, Coach Surtain, and he is not. I'm not saying he's down on Shaheem Brown, but he said right now he needs to keep pushing and get more into the conversation. And that, I hope I'm not misquoting that. He didn't get the high five I thought he might from Coach Surtain in the presser. So, he's a senior. This is his money year. So we'll see. Maybe Coach Surtain is trying to keep him motivated. We'll find out. Because at some times there could be as many as three safeties, backing it up, because this defense does not want balls thrown long on them or over their heads.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's why a lot of times they could have 5, 8 guys chasing the football in the air. That's why it's important that defensive line get the pressure, and stop the run.
The other returning guy I need to just point out is Jabril Rawls.
A
guy who they've complimented, rising, redshirt sophomore, who they say physically has transformed himself in the offseason with the weight gain.
Right.
And Coach Norvell has pointed out with, physical transformation, increases confidence, shows playmaking ability.
Yeah.
So whether or not that shows itself with playing time, he's one of those guys. I mean, this is a group that did not bring a lot of transfers in because they feel like they've recruited that room well. And they feel like that development needs to be there to showcase that room. And that comes with Patrick Surtain and the way I believe he has recruited well.
Yeah, I do too.
The most amount of 4-star talent, I feel like, of any of the coaches.
Right.
And he's kept these classes relevant, these recruiting classes relevant. and it's and that's where we're talking about. Charles Lester and Kai Bates and Jamari Howard and Max Redmond and Zay Thomas and, Shamar Arnois. Like, these guys both are, redshirt freshmen and true freshmen. These guys are all high four-star guys.
That room is loaded. That room is huge. When you look at the roster, when you just look at the roster by Seminoles.com, which is the official roster, that's the official roster, not our lads, okay? When you look at it, there's a lot of kids in that secondary, okay, who are competing for time. And you've mentioned a number of them.
I just mentioned you 7 freshmen.
Exactly.
7 freshmen.
Exactly.
That have yet to really get on the field.
Okay, and you mentioned Quadarius Jones. He's getting high marks.
I didn't even mention him yet. That's the thing. I didn't even mention him yet. And that's
he's getting high marks. He's getting good marks.
And that's the he's a.
And I'm not talking about from the fans. I'm talking about coaches.
Yeah.
I'm listening to coaches. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not listening so much to the fan base as I am the coaches.
Yeah.
I'm not following threads all day long. Okay.
I wish you would be.
Well, no, that's meaningless. I'm spending my time accessing the interviews from coaches and the players themselves. That's where, and shout out to War Chant, who gets a lot of those interviews. Okay. We don't have access. And Seminoles.com, the press office there for football is allowing this to be. And if you listen closely, sometimes little things leak out. They're not all the Mike Norvell coaching 101 speeches, which says nothing. That's kind of the last guy I listened to be honest.
Yeah.
I always start with Tony White.
I think the interesting part about this room, which is opposite the linebackers, is that it's incredibly young when you look at it. Incredibly young. It is
incredibly young.
It's led by a veteran and Jerry Wilson and his experience across teams, being and not just experience with him, but being a talent, a very.
And we thought
NFL
Shaheem Brown at this point would be trying to work himself into round 2 or 3 of the NFL draft, but right now.
Yeah, he's your leading tackler, but he needs to bounce
stock
back
down. From what I'm hearing, stock down.
But those are your 2
Hope
guys.
I'm wrong.
But those are your 2 guys with the most experience. Everyone else is really, you have 6 guys that have been on the field really on this roster. Jerry, Shaheem, KJ, Earl Little, Edwin, and Jabril. But those guys, the last 3 guys I mentioned, have barely been on the field when you think about it and made an impact. And then the rest of the guys, the 7 freshmen I mentioned, and Jones, like those guys haven't even seen the field yet, really. So this is an incredibly deep room.
I'm hearing a lot about Shamar too.
Shamar, and I mentioned him as part of the freshmen, and like you said, he's getting a lot of hype. But and I hope it's true because these guys are talented guys. It's talented, but is it just coach speak? Is it just Sice trying to get clicks? Yeah. Because I remember all the hype around Charles Lester, and the guy hasn't, and it was his true freshman year. I get it. But you would think, I would have thought in such a garbage can of a year, some of these guys would have got on the field. We had nothing to lose last year. And I get it. Maybe you don't want to throw them out there when everything's broken down. You don't want to ruin the development cycle of these guys and burn their year of experience. I get it. So I'm hoping that some of these guys like Kai Bates and, like you said, Shamar or Charles, now that they've had a year, not Shamar, but Charles and Kai and those guys who are heralded and had the intangibles and the measurements and stuff like that. Now they've had a year in the program, off season, got to work with Patrick. Hopefully this year that they'll be in the rotation to compete for it, because this is, there's not a lot. The big dogs are gone. Fentrell and Azaria, those guys are gone. The leaders are gone. And Jerry's the only guy that's there now to lead the group. You should be. Charles, this is your time. Kai, this is your time.
Yeah.
Take that spot.
You're right.
Take that spot.
You're right.
I want to see it.
You're right. And I think there'll be some rotation there, especially early in the season. Like I said, it's going to be hot as hell. Yeah. Okay. And it's going to, after the first game, we're going to see who the coaches trust by the number of reps they're getting. We'll know.
And if
We'll know.
Shaheem's not showing it, get his ass off the field and play one of these younger guys. I'm sorry, but if he's not being able, if he can't wrap up, if he lets a big play go, if he can't tackle in coverage, whatever, then I'd rather see one of these true freshmen or redshirt freshmen, let them get some play. Let them. Maybe they can't show it in practice, but they can show it in the game. But if a redshirt senior cannot show it, and if he couldn't show it last year and he can't show it this year, don't give him 5 games to try it out. Give him 1 game, 2. You can't burn a whole year trying to give a guy another chance. I'd rather give some of these guys some.
I don't think Tony White is going to give.
Agree.
Tony White is not going to sit back and watch a guy non-perform and keep putting him out there. He's not going to do it.
I agree.
Okay, he is not going to do that.
I agree.
And if nobody believes us on this, pull up any of the Tony Whites, especially the last couple, especially the last one. In fact, look at our shorts. Look at our shorts that we've put out, and you'll see this guy is not fooling around. Okay, he's here to win football games. He's here to develop young men for the next level. And Tony White has a really good background for this. And let me say this. You don't hear much. I look for interviews. He hasn't been out on any interviews that I've seen, coaches interviews. Evan Cooper. Evan Cooper. You know who Evan Cooper is?
No.
You don't even know who he is. Evan Cooper is the safeties coach. Okay. He is the assistant coach under White. He coaches the safeties. All right. Papuchas is mainly the linebackers coach, and then Surtain is the defensive backs. Okay. But Evan Cooper, and I didn't know much about him. I looked up his background. This guy has pretty damn good bio. Okay. He really has pretty good bio. And I wrote down notes and I said, this guy kind of knows what's going on. I thought he was just like a friendly hire because Tony White kind of wanted to bring the guy along. He's got a pretty damn good background for what he's doing.
Yeah,
all right.
I remember them. I remember when they hired this guy.
He's coached at the pro level. He played college football at Temple. He's coached at a CFB level. So also on the side of the defense is 2 ex-head coaches assisting with all of this. Mm-hmm. So I think they've tried to put themselves here in a position to help win football games. So I like Tony White being in charge of all this, and we'll see. We're going to see what happens in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of questions to wrap up here on this group. We talked about him a little bit. Earl Little, I think, is projected to play as the rover position, that hybrid safety that demands versatility in that position group in this 3-3-5. What kind of impact do you think that specific role will have on his specific development? And do you think it'll be crucial for the overall effectiveness of this 3-3-5 defense? Yeah,
I think Earl Little, this is his moment. I think he's going to like playing in this defense. And I think he's going to have a pretty good year, injuries aside.
Okay. And then, with all the turnover, with the departures of Conrad Hussey, how much more pressure, and I've kind of gotten a sense of what you think, but with all those departures, with the NFL departures, with the veterans, how much pressure do you think is on Shaheem Brown, the returning leading tackler of the team, to bounce back not only personally, but from his performance last year, but being that leading tackler of the team? How do you think elevating his game this year will elevate the entire performance of the unit?
Yeah, I think they really want Shaheem to do well. I think everybody wants him to do well. The question is, does Shaheem want to do well? I don't think anybody questions his toughness or his ability to hit. I think what they question is his ability to line up properly and not overplay, okay, and be in the right position. Not, as one of the coaches, and I think it was Tony White, he goes, we've got to take players from when they think, see, to think action. They where a player can automatically read and go to the ball, all right, and understand where the ball is going to be. I don't know if Shaheem is having problems, or is not studying enough, or cannot grasp it to really let his physical performance catch up with the cerebral performance that is necessary.
But you do think that if he puts it together, you think he can get to another level? Or do you think he's peaked? Oh, did we lose you? I think we lost the old man. So I was gonna say, do we think Shaheem's hit his performance peak at Florida State? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he has personally. I want to hope, because I've seen some great moments out of Shaheem, on the field, and I want to believe. It wasn't a great year. He had a high tackle amount, had some coverage mistakes. I want to believe that he can get to the next level, and I want to believe with his coaching staff, with a new coach and mentor in Tony White, that he can do that. And I want to believe that they wouldn't have kept him around if they didn't believe Shaheem could do it. So I think with a guy holding him accountable, like Tony White, he will do that. So I believe in Shaheem. I want the fans to believe in Shaheem that he can do it. And if he doesn't do it, if he doesn't hold himself accountable, I don't think he'll be on the field, because he's got guys that want his job. And I think that's a big thing this year, is there's plenty of guys on this team that want his job. And that was going to be my last question for the old man, was who of the young guns, who of the young freshmen who we put on freshman watch, the Shamars, the Charles Lesters, the Kai Bates, the Jamari Howards, Max Redmond, Zay Thomas, Antonio Cromartie Jr., of those guys, who do you guys think will make an impact this year? I got to believe one of those guys will make an impact this year if we're going to be a great team. So many, you look across the country, you look at Georgia. We lost recruiting battles to Georgia for some key players, and they had some of the freshmen that we should have had on this roster making impact players, right? But we won a couple battles, right, for some of these players. We need some of these freshmen to make plays for us. We saw KJ Bolden for Georgia making plays last year. Who's going to be our KJ Bolden this year? Can it be Kai Bates? Can it be finally Charles Lester as a redshirt freshman making plays? Can it be Shamar, who's been getting a lot of buzz? I would love to see that. I would love us to see finally us hit on a 4-star freshman who can make plays out of the gate. Shamar 6'2", 192, big guy, good high school, well built. I would love to see a guy like that make an instant impact and push for time. A guy that comes in ready to play, ready to compete, ready to take on that knowledge of the defensive scheme. I would love us to have one of those instant impact guys. Finally.
Hello.
Yes. You back?
Incredible. Yep.
All right. I'm getting some feedback, so I may pull you out. You hear me?
Yeah, I just won't talk.
Okay. All right. So that's it for. Okay. Okay. I gotta pull you out. So yeah, that's really it. So let us know in the chat who you think the impact freshmen are going to be. Because like I said, I think it's between Shamar, and I believe we'll probably maybe see Kai Bates. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Charles Lester, even though he was the most hyped coming in. But looking at Kai and looking at some of his intangibles and the way he is and the way he's built, I do think at 6'2", like, he has some of those traits that I like. I think between him and Shamar that they could compete, but any of those guys I would take. Instant impact from that group of 7, I would love to see it. So let us know in the chat any of those guys that you believe will make an impact. And if you disagree or agree with our assessment of these groups. But I believe that the linebacking group, the defensive back group from this season, I believe at least the linebacking group this season is better equipped than last season. I think the additions are better this season than last season. I believe you have more experience, more experience being brought into the linebacker group. And you've kept and retained more of that experience from your like the guys that you retained more of that crucial experience. Like the guys, like you kept Omar. He was in the portal. You kept him. You retained Omar. You retained Justin Cryer. You retained Blake Nicholson. And you added experience around them, which I think is critical. And for the DBs, you lost guys to the NFL, which was going to happen, which is good. It's always good to lose guys to the NFL. But you brought in a guy like Jerry Wilson, who is an NFL talent himself. So crucial addition. And then you recruited high 4-star guys, which is what you need to do to be a championship team. And that is one thing we don't talk about enough. But if you want to build a championship roster, you have to develop key talent from the high school ranks. Look at all the championship caliber teams, the guys that are going to the national title games, and they are a net exporter of talent. That means that they are losing more players than they're bringing in. That means that they are bringing in high school players at a higher rate than they're importing transfers. That's what Florida State has to get back on track doing. They can't, right now they're in rebuild mode, so they're utilizing the portal they're a net importer of talent. They can't be like that. They have to reverse it and be an exporter of players they don't want, of players who are not going to make it at a high level of playing standard. We got to get back to only keeping the highest level of talent, only the highest level of competitive players on this roster. That's what we got to get back to as the standard. But that's it. Let us know if you disagree, agree with our picks. I'm excited about this group. I'm excited to watch this team in this new defensive scheme. I'm excited to watch some of the young players step up. But let us know, agree, disagree. Thank you for watching, whether it's live or recorded. Like and subscribe. We appreciate y'all's time. It has been great to be with you guys today. We will see you all soon. As always, go Noles. And we will see you next week. Have a great Thursday night. Have a great Friday and a great weekend, y'all. Take care.
Seminole sideline 365.